Oh, hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the It Gets Better stream. Just give me 1 second, because I just realized I forgot to add my noise suppression thing on here so that you guys don't get, like, absolutely deafened by background noise. Oh, gosh, I think I just turned my mic up way too high. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, can you guys hear me fine on the stream? Can you all hear me right now? Hi, hi, hi. Hi, hi, hi. Can you all hear me fine? You can? Well, hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you all. Let's get some, like, lo-fi vibes on, shall we? Here we go. And just give me 1 second, and we'll switch over. So the next, just so you guys know, because I know some of you guys were wanting to figure out the next giveaway, I'm going to ask James to do a 200k diamonds giveaway on my Discord server for people who are in this stream. We're not going to tag anybody and tell anybody it's happening, so that only people on this stream actually know. Okay? Okay. Hi, hi, hi. I actually need to re-add my captions. I forgot to add my captions. Let me just add that. 1920, 1080. I'm on a different computer to what I usually use, so just bear with me. It should work. Now? Is it working? It not working. Why it not working? Is it using the wrong microphone? Give me a second, guys. 1 sec. Sorry. Hello. Yeah, it's a secret giveaway. It's sneaky, so that only the people who are watching the stream can enter. Okay. Well, this is very annoying because for some reason the captions are not working. Oh, it's using the wrong microphone. Well, that would do it. Is it working? If I change it to this and click done. Yay! Okay, cool. Hello. Welcome to the It Gets Better channel. For all of my viewers who've been here before, welcome back. If you've never been here before, then welcome on in. The It Gets Better channel stuff that we usually do. We talk a lot about LGBTQ+ stuff here. This is a channel dedicated to the It Gets Better non-profit, which is a non-profit for anybody that doesn't know, that specifically supports LGBTQ+ people and provides like educational resources and things like that. It's really cool. We love it here. Super nice safe space. And for those of you who've never been here before, every single time we do an It Gets Better stream, I always let you guys ask me questions. If you've got questions that are related to LGBTQ+ stuff, or if you just want to share your experiences and things like that. Oh, doggy barking, I'm sorry. I am not an expert. Obviously, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. My responses are all based on my own experiences as a trans woman, and as a bisexual person. All of my experiences and all my advice, anything that I share, just to be clear, is all coming from just my experiences as an LGBTQ+ person, and not as like a professional, because I'm not a professional. Okay, is the audio all fine for you guys? Can you just confirm for me if the microphone is like loud enough and stuff like that? I'm on a different computer. This is my first time streaming on the It Gets Better channel, I think, since I came here. For those who don't know, I am actually in America at the moment and not the UK where I normally am. I don't think I have streamed on the It Gets Better channel since being here. So this is different for me. I'm so jealous, by the way, because I came over to watch the It Gets Better stream the other night with one of the other ambassadors. All Gold Queen was streaming, and her backdrop and her stream setup is so beautiful. I live for it, you guys. I desperately want to make my backdrop nicer, because my old setup that I used to have was so gorgeous, you guys. I had such a gorgeous setup before in my old room, and then I moved rooms because I moved over to a bigger room, and I haven't been able to make it look as nice yet. And now I'm in America, and this room is not set up for like the stream vibes. As you can see, it's just a bedroom. So I really want to go back to like a really gorgeous vibed bedroom again. I watched her a few days ago. She's so sweet. Yes. Honestly, I rated the stream, and they've got to be one of the nicest streamers I've ever rated. It was so lovely. So Today, we are going to be talking specifically about some of my experiences with being trans. Specifically, as you may have seen in the title, we're going to talk a little bit about like coming to terms with recognizing that there isn't a specified list that makes you LGBTQ+, and more specifically for me, being trans. Because I don't know about you guys, if any of you guys are LGBTQ+ yourself, let me know if you are. I'd love to know. If you want to share, of course. But I think when you're LGBTQ+ yourself, it's very easy sometimes to like, I guess, forget that you don't have to fit into like a perfect box, if that makes sense. You don't have to like fit these really specific things, because I don't know if you've noticed, but society in general tends to put us in boxes and give us specific things in life. Like, if you fit these specific boxes, then you're this. If you fit these specific boxes, then you're this. For example, there's actually a song by Macklemore where some of the lyrics talk about this. But like, people say, for example, you know, like, if you like soccer or football or sports, or you like doing certain things, then you're not gay because you like all the stereotypically male things. So how could you be gay if you like all those things? Which is obviously ridiculous and completely untrue. Because you can still be gay and enjoy sports, and you can still be a straight male and enjoy dancing and ballet and things like that, right? These societal expectations that are ultimately ridiculous and completely untrue, you know? So, I wanted to talk to you guys specifically when we were planning this stream about my experience with feeling like you need to fit into specific boxes for society, and how common it is for you to need, like, to feel like you have to fit into them, if you know what I mean. For example, when I was growing up, and I always knew something didn't feel quite right, if you know what I mean. Like, people always say to me, like, how long have you known that you were trans? And the truth is, I never really knew I was trans until I was older and could put words to my experiences, but I knew that something wasn't quite right. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people who are LGBTQ probably feel that same sort of vibe, and you probably understand what I'm saying. Growing up, I always knew there was something about me that just wasn't quite the same as my siblings, or didn't quite fit with like what was expected of me. You know what I mean? There were some of the things that people say that are stereotypical and obvious, which also aren't always true, but there were also things that weren't stereotypical and obvious. And so I never really understood necessarily how I was feeling, because it was very complicated to try to understand those feelings. And I'm sure you guys recognize that. I'm sure you probably feel that way too if you're LGBTQ+ yourself. You have a big period, I think, of questioning yourself, which is different for everybody. It's a different length of time for everybody. It doesn't matter how long it takes for you to figure out how you feel or who you are. It can take a lifetime, it can take a year, it can take 10. It doesn't matter. You don't need to push yourself to figure it out quicker. You can take your time. But one thing I remember doing is I remember sitting there and thinking like about all these different things. Like, do I want to do this with my life? Do I want to feel this way? Do I feel this way? Do I want to do these things? Do I want this? When you're trans, I think the list often includes people, like, I don't know about people nowadays, but especially when I was a teenager, the list of things you would do would be like, do I want to dress this way? Do I want to speak this way? Do I want to be in this particular role? One of the big ones that trans people question themselves on is like, do I want to have surgeries? Things like that. Back when I was first like coming out and transitioning and recognizing who I was and figuring things out, one of the biggest ones is that I had a trans friend who'd been out for longer than me and was already transitioning. And they said to me that if you didn't want to have surgery, then you couldn't be trans. Which is ridiculous, obviously, because you don't have to do anything that you don't feel is necessary for you to feel comfortable in yourself. And at that time, my gender dysphoria manifested heavily in specific places. Like, I think most trans people it does, or non-binary people. Most of my like gender dysphoria manifested in things like my voice. My voice has always bothered me a lot. Or things like not having like breasts, for example, or not having the right curvature of my hip shape, or my neck having a lump in it. Like, there's very specific things I think that bother you. For whatever reason, for me, my like lower areas just didn't really bother me. Like, I was like, you know, pretty much unbothered because I could comfortably ignore them. Most of my gender dysphoria, I think, manifested and manifests in things that people see actively all the time or hear all the time. You know what I mean? And I think everybody's dysphoria, if you experience dysphoria, manifests in different individual things. So people, when that particular friend said to me that, like, if you don't know for sure that you want and or need to have lower surgery, you can't be transgender. Like, that's impossible. You're not trans, you're something else. That really negatively affected me. It actually it made me delay speaking to professionals and speaking to my doctor about how I was feeling for like a year longer than what it should have, because of the fact that I was nervous about that. I felt like, well, if they've said that, then I can't possibly be trans. It must be something else. I need to figure out what it is. And it's interesting because I didn't really realize that I was trans and put a word to what I was feeling until I started watching YouTubers who were trans, because you can find a ton of YouTubers, for those who don't know, that are sharing their experiences. But when I was a kid, there weren't trans people on TV. There's still that many now. There weren't gay people in shows, unless you're talking about shows like, say, Will and Grace, for example, where there's like a gay best friend in it or two gay best friends. But you'll notice when you watch shows like that from like the 90s and stuff, they're always made fun of, right? The LGBTQ plus people in those shows, they don't just fit into the social circles like normal, you know, like you would usually expect from your group of friends. They were always jerks. A great example of this is like in Will and Grace, the gay characters are like really flamboyant and over the top and stuff, which is how many gay people are. But not all gay people are like that. Everybody's individual, because being gay is not your entire personality, right? It's part of who you are, but your personality is made up of so many other things. There are plenty of straight people who are also very feminine and flamboyant, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But TV shows back then made you feel like that's how all gay people were and made jokes out of it. A good example of that as well is like if you watch Friends, for example. Throughout the entire of the Friends storyline, I love Friends and I loved watching it, and I watched it so much when I was a kid. But if you watch Friends, so much of the storyline in Friends is based very obviously on the fact that Carol and Susan are a problem, right? Throughout their entire storyline as the lesbian couple, whilst there are like moments where people say to accept them, basically the whole point of Carol and Susan's storyline is that they ruined Ross's life, right? They forced him to get divorced when he didn't want to. They make having a baby a really complicated thing for him, make his life really difficult. Throughout the whole story, all they ever do is talk about, especially from Ross's perspective, about how difficult it must be for Ross, right, to lose his wife because she realizes she's a lesbian and she comes out and she gets married to a lesbian, you know, and things like that, right? They always make it out like it's such a big deal for him. They never talk about how complicated it must have been for her, how hard it must have been for her to come out, and especially in the 90s, and talk about her experiences and publicly express what she was going through. They never talk about how difficult it must have been for her to do that, and for her to talk about it and come out and get divorced and, you know, take all the steps she had to take to be able to be accepted as who she was. And I think when you're growing up, when I was young and watched that, that's not good for young LGBTQ plus people to watch, to be showing like essentially, okay, fine, you're LGBTQ plus, but actually you're going to be a problem and going to create issues for people throughout your life. That's what those shows kind of showed us. So even though there's a great shows that we all love to watch, for young people growing up and watching them, that is not a healthy mindset for you to be in watching it. A good example as well is, I always remember there's an episode of Friends where she makes a joke, where Rachel and Ross make a joke about trans people, right? They specifically make a very like off the cuff kind of inappropriate joke, which in the 90s may have been more acceptable. Shouldn't have been, but it, you know, whatever. And I remember watching it when I was growing up and thinking like, I don't want people to talk about me like that. Do you know what I mean? That's not representation. Representation is not making jokes out of people. It's like, for example, another example in the Friends storyline, like Chandler's father, for example. I think it's very clear throughout the storyline that Chandler's father is not just a drag queen, considering the fact that other than from his, like, Chandler's family, everybody else socially seems to refer to Chandler's father as a woman, using she, her pronouns, using a new name, etc., right? But like his family, Chandler himself, always refers to his father as his father and calls him dad, calls him masculine pronouns and things like that. I feel like it's very obvious, at least it would be in the modern day, that that character is obviously trans and not just a drag queen to many people, but it's made fun of. Do you know what I mean? It's always at that character's expense. So my point is, anyway, growing up, the only media I got to consume that ever had LGBTQ plus people in it was very negative representation, right? So YouTube was the first time that I got to see positive representation of trans people. And I think getting to learn from those people was one of the biggest benefits for me, because I got to grow as a person whilst understanding my experiences and learning more about who I was, because they would talk about their experiences, and some of the things I'd be like, that's exactly how I feel. Some of the things I'd be like, I don't feel that way too, but I'm glad you've shared your experience with me because now I can understand it better. Bye, nurse. See you later. You know what I mean? Like, my favourite YouTuber when I was a teenager was Steph Sanyati. I don't know if you guys have heard of her or have watched any of her content. I know she took a break for a while, but I think she's come back now. But basically, she's a Canadian trans woman, and she made a ton of videos when I was growing up about her experiences with being trans, what it was like being trans, basically like tons and tons and tons of videos. She made videos with advice on vocal therapy. She made videos of, you know, advice on transitioning or various different things. So many videos that were just amazing. Like, for me growing up, they really helped me, because it allowed me to see somebody represent themselves as a trans person in a positive way. You know, she would share some of her experiences that were difficult and were sometimes negative things, but most of what she shared was from a perspective that allowed me to see, first of all, that she's a human being and a normal person, just like everybody else, with feelings and thoughts just like everybody else. And that just because part of her personality is that she's trans doesn't mean that she's not also all the other things that human beings are, you know, like siblings to people, daughters, sons, whatever. There's so much more to people than just their gender identity or their sexual orientation, and I think I really needed that growing up. I needed to see somebody showcasing that I'm representing that. Do you know what I mean? Nowadays, we have a lot more LGBTQ plus people online, which is wonderful. And a lot more people can grow up seeing that, but there's also a lot more negativity out there too. And I just always hope that the LGBTQ plus young people who are struggling and questioning themselves find the right kind of content and the right kind of people so that they can feel more comfortable, they can feel more accepted. I think when I was growing up, it was really hard because it always felt like there was specific things I had to, I guess, abide by. Like, I had to meet these, like, specific expectations. Do you know what I mean? And it can be really hard, I think, for young people to be placed, at least by placing themselves and placed by society, into those boxes, because it makes figuring yourself out and figuring how you feel so much harder. It's all about taking gradual steps, but also recognizing that there's nothing wrong with you, and that a lot of these things that people say are completely untrue. You know, that you have to meet these specific requirements, that you can't be this unless you're this, you can't be that unless you're that. It's completely untrue. And I think having YouTube really helped me to recognize that more, if you know what I mean. Okay, let me go ahead and read some of your comments on this, because I want to see... I know you guys have been just messaging a lot, so I want to see some of your thoughts as well. So just give me 1 second. So I'm just opening a chat on a bigger window so I can see it a bit better. Let me scroll. Okay, so rather than me scrolling up, if I don't start reading your message in a minute, if I miss your message, go ahead and send it again so that I don't miss it. Because if I scroll up, I don't want to then miss some of the newer ones. So it might be easier if people just sort of like resend stuff. Do you know what I mean? So let me start reading one. You can see where I'm starting from, and then go ahead and resend one if I miss yours. Okay. Okay, so let's see. We have got Lunley has said, my country is known for being pro-LGBTQ+. But most people here are homophobic and transphobic, but make it genuinely scary to come out or express your identity. So do you think it's most people in the country, or do you mean most people like around where you are? Are you in a specific area that can happen? Because obviously there's in every country there's specific areas that are safer and there's areas that are less safe. You know, sorry, I've just realised my Battle.net is still open, so Stephanie just went in Overwatch and it made a ping on my stream. How dare you, Stephanie? Because it may not be necessarily the whole country, it may be just where you are. And so you might be able to move to a safer place that's more comfortable in the future, if you know what I mean. Let's see. The LGBTQ plus community here is also very close, but it's kind of gatekeeping, making it very hard to fit in or be considered gay enough. Do you think that it's specifically gatekeeping and that's done on purpose? Or do you think that perhaps your nervousness, that you aren't similar enough to them, is what's limiting you from trying to join in? Because sometimes our anxiety can make things worse for us, when in reality, we would actually be more than welcome to participate. And you might find that actually jumping in and trying to join in might actually help you. Sleep deprived. I think I might have missed your first message. Let me just scroll back because I'm trying to understand the context on your message. Give me a sec. Actually, sleep deprived. I can't find an older message from you. I don't know who you're talking about in your message. You might want, if you could clarify, or what you're talking about. A friend group of mine has been trying to force me to date a girl in our group because we are both part of the LGBTQ+. If someone's trying to force you to do anything, regardless of being LGBTQ+ or not, that's weird and creepy, and, you know, you shouldn't feel like you have to do that. So don't like obviously allow something like that. You should definitely talk to a trusted adult if you feel unsafe at any point. I knew I was trans since I was 11 or 12, but I kept going in and out of the closet because even though I had supportive friends, I'm in a red state. It's just hard to feel like you'll ever be trans enough to be taken seriously. But now I've just stopped caring and just being myself instead of trying to conform to the stereotypes. Because that's another thing is, you don't need to be trans enough. If you're trans, you are trans enough. Like, you know who you are. You don't need to feel like you need to change who you are to fit the more acceptable stereotype. You need to be yourself, and whatever makes you happy. However representing yourself makes you happy is what's important. 100% representation is so important. I think growing up I was lucky because I had family members who were openly LGBTQ+, and my family was very supportive. So my first exposure to LGBTQ+ people was in a very positive manner, but I imagine if I hadn't had that family member growing up, the first exposure I would have had would have been kids growing up using gay as the butt of a joke and displaying it in a negative manner. Yeah, I think, so I don't have any LGBTQ+ family, unfortunately, which I always found really hard because I am the only person in literally my entire family, unless somebody is, you know, closeted, obviously. And I do think I found that hard growing up. I think I found it difficult because I never really knew if my family would be okay with it. My parents always kind of made an effort to make it clear-ish that they were going to be okay with it, but I don't think it ever really makes you feel 100% certain until you actually experience it. You actually talk to somebody and they tell you that it's okay. Do you know what I mean? I think my family never made me feel like they wouldn't be okay with it, but I never knew for sure, so I was always too nervous to tell them, just in case it wasn't okay to them, if you know what I mean. I came out as a lesbian 2 or 3 years ago. I hope it went well for you, and I'm happy for you as well that you felt comfortable to come out. Amanda, that's a really sad thing to hear, but there will be places that you can be safer too. I had a trans pastor, I didn't realise I was trans, but he said if you ever want me to call you by a different name or pronouns, let me know. That's really nice. It's nice that there's a lot more churches and places you can go where you can feel comfortable and safe. I told somebody that I wanted to get top surgery and they said you're obsessed with becoming a boy. I don't think it's fair to call it an obsession, because it's not an obsession, but of course you're going to want to take the steps that you feel that you need to feel comfortable. There is nothing wrong with you making decisions for your own life that are going to make you feel better. As long as you've thought them through and you know that it's going to genuinely improve your life, then there's nothing wrong with you doing that. You absolutely should be allowed to do whatever you want with your own body, as long as you're sure that you want to do that, and that's what's going to make you feel comfortable. I feel like in my country it's improved a lot, but not safe enough. There has been a lot of incidents of transphobia from political entities, which is horrendous. But me as a sister of my trans brother, I don't feel happy for the current legislation just surrounding LGBTQ+ communities. I think there's still we've come a long way with like gay rights and things like that. There's still a long way to go for trans rights, and an even longer way to go for non-binary related rights too. But it absolutely needs to be improved in most places. There are some places that are getting very good. But yeah. XD Soul, don't be rude, please. I identified as non-binary for a while because I felt like I couldn't be a trans guy yet. Like I had to go through like a transition from girl to non-binary to trans. You know, I understand what you mean by that, because when I first came out to my parents, I told them I was gay first because I was too scared to tell them I was trans, and I wasn't gay. But I was too nervous, but they were fine with that. And then I think I also told them that I was non-binary first, because I felt like it would maybe, I guess, soften the blow versus just being like, I'm trans and I'm going to be transitioning. I don't know if it really made it better or if it made it worse. I think it encouraged them to think that I like didn't know what I was talking about, because they didn't know what non-binary meant, if you know what I mean. Which means they needed to be more educated too. My parents were not accepting at first. Well, my dad was. My mom struggled, but they got better with time. And so it's kind of a complicated one, because I always knew my family would be accepting. I was shocked when they weren't at first. But it wasn't so much that my mom wasn't accepting. It was more that I think she was afraid for me, and she wanted to make sure that this is definitely something that I knew I was sure about. Which I don't think she'll be able to, I think it's very obvious that I was sure about it now. But, as soon as I graduate, I'm moving out of Florida to a much safer state for LGBTQ+ people. I really don't feel safe. Yeah, the thing is a lot of those places, a lot of like states, like Florida, for example, and some other countries, are not really making an effort to make people feel safe, but they're also making an active effort to make you feel more unsafe. You should never have to leave, your home state or your home or where you're from. But if it will make you feel more comfortable and safer, then obviously you have that right to do so. It's just a shame that you should ever have to. Something nobody talks about with being trans, gay, or etc. is you never stop coming out. Nobody has prepared me for this, and nobody ever said anything about it. Like, you come out once, but then you meet new people. At some point, you'll have to come out again. Like, you have to keep coming out. It's very dependent, because you should only ever have to come out to people you want to come out to. But yes, I mean, you don't ever necessarily stop coming out. It also depends what you're going through there. Like, with being trans, I don't come out as trans anymore because I don't need to. For people who are like in public that are new people that I meet, it's none of their business anyway. I guess I continue to come out online because I tell people and share my stories, but I don't ever like come out in person anymore, because I don't tell random people I don't know, because there's no need for them to know. They can use she, her pronouns and just get on with it, which people do. But I know what you mean when like with like sexual orientation. I feel like some people, if you want people you meet to know, you obviously will have to tell them, but you don't necessarily have to directly tell them anyway. Like, if you have a boyfriend, for example, and you're a male, then you can just introduce people to your boyfriend. You don't necessarily have to come out. I guess it depends on what you want people to know and how you want things to go, but it depends on who you are as a person. But I suppose, yes, there is always going to be that level of like coming out again throughout your life in places. I would like it if we got to be a world where we didn't ever have to do that. So, mods, James or Stephanie, are either of you here? Okay, thank you. I'm bi, and also in school, a student was asking people if they had a girlfriend or boyfriend, so I said I haven't had a girlfriend before. The whole classroom laughed at me, and now I know it's not as bad as others, but it made me feel horrible. So I've lied almost my entire whole school year after, saying I only liked guys. I remember I was picked on for days. I feel bad for anyone that went through that. You don't have to say things like, you know, it's not as bad as what other people go through, because your experiences are your experiences, and you're entirely valid in feeling what you feel. You should never ever feel like you have to apologize or explain yourself to anybody, and you should never belittle what you're going through. That's not a nice experience for anybody to go through, and I'm sure it was very difficult for you, and I'm really sorry that you had to experience that. You absolutely did not deserve it, and I'm really sorry that you went through that. Maybe it's just the people I've met, but I have been made fun of for appearing like a basic straight girl. Absolutely, your friends are not great friends. You should not have to have friends that make you feel bad about yourself like that. And by the sounds of it, they're not very good friends because they're belittling your identity. There isn't a specific way to be gay. There isn't a specific way to be a lesbian. There isn't a specific way to be trans. You just are if you are. Or you aren't if you aren't. And you don't need to explain yourself to anybody. You don't need to be a certain type of personality in order to be gay. You know who you are, and you should be allowed to express yourself however you feel you want to express yourself. I come out as a lesbian to my parents, but I don't want to tell my grandparent because they're homophobic, but at the same time I want to. Amelia, I think we all sort of go through that like difficulty of knowing there's certain people we don't want to come out to because we don't know how they're going to react, but we want to come out to them at the same time because we want everyone to know and we don't want to have to hide anymore. The reality is you have to decide whether or not you can deal with their reaction and if you'll be safe as well. And if they don't accept you, you have to be, you know, prepared, I guess, for the chance that they may not want you in their life anymore, which is horrible, but does happen. You sort of have to decide if you're okay with that, if that makes sense. But to be honest with you, if somebody doesn't accept you for being a lesbian, then it's their loss, really, not yours. I've come out to my parents and they told my GP, who put it on the medical records. I'm under a non-binary umbrella. I'm worried because my country isn't very trans-friendly. Luckily, because my parents support me, my mum is also not exactly straight. I'm not sure what she means by this. She hasn't told me before. Or told you more, sorry. I don't know what country you're from, Jupiter, but I would hope that they have things in place that make it illegal for that information to be shared with anybody except your medical practitioners. But I know that medical practitioners also, when they're not accepting, are not always great. But if your parents shared that information and they're accepting of you, I would like to think that they wouldn't put you in a position where you'd be unsafe if they accept you, you know? My mum is fine with me being gay, but I haven't told my dad yet because he's old school and his religion doesn't support LGBTQ plus people, and I really don't want to ruin our relationship. This is something that a lot of LGBTQ plus people go through. A lot of people struggle with not knowing if they should tell people because they don't want to affect their relationships or not. But the thing is if your relationship is affected by you being gay or by being LGBTQ plus in general, then perhaps the relationship isn't what you thought it was, because you'd hope that these people love and accept you for who you are as a person and not because of who you love. I don't know how I can explain my situation without seeming wrong, but I will try. I have a sibling that always tells us to call him by a name of his current favourite character, which happens to be male and changes the name every time he has a new favourite character. All of them are male, and he even tries to act like the current favourite character. Is it being trans or him not liking himself and trying to be somebody else? I'm completely lost. Okay, so hold on. You said the characters are all male, and you keep referring to him as him, so like, I'm assuming he's a boy who likes to be called other male character names. Depending on how old he is, it might just be that he just enjoys the idea of getting to be lost in different characters, you know, getting to play different people, or just enjoys the names. There might not be any kind of like specific thing behind it. It might just be because he likes it. If he's old enough to understand, and it might just be something that maybe you just want to talk about quietly and carefully and respectfully. You might find that that you can have an open conversation about it, and he can tell you himself why he likes to be called the names. But I mean, my little brother's 4 years old, and he says things like, I want people to call me like, I don't know, names from Toy Story, like Buzz Lightyear or whatever, or different characters, and he's just playing. He just enjoys it because in his imagination, he gets to be that character for a while. It may not mean anything necessarily. It might just be something that he finds fun. Let me see. When I was younger and questioning my gender, my mum once said, I thought you wanted to be trans when you were younger. I'm glad you didn't end up like that. And it just made me feel awful. I think that's a really unfortunate thing for her to say. And I'm not really sure what I can say in terms of that. Obviously, I know you said you're not trans, so obviously you won't have to come out to her and tell her that you are, I think, if you remember correctly. But it is a shame that she said that, and hopefully with your education, perhaps even you could educate her. If you know she's open to talking to you, perhaps you could share with her why you felt upset about that. Because I think you've said before that you can talk to her. Perhaps you could tell her why that made you feel upset and why you're not okay with that, and that you support trans people and you think it's unfair that she said that. If you think you're safe to do so, though, obviously. My message got flagged. It didn't have anything inherently bad. I think it was just the words in it. Should I resend it? If it got flagged, I won't see it. So you might have to potentially adjust some of the words you think might have been flagged. But if you know it doesn't say anything bad, then you can try again. I've gone by he, there since I was around 14, and a couple of weeks ago I had changed them to they, them. No one but one person has adjusted, and I've told them, it's in my Discord bio, my raw high name, and yet they still say he, him, his. Sleep deprived, I would say that changing pronouns does take time for people to understand. I know that from experience. The best thing you can do is politely remind people and, you know, just say, by the way, my pronouns are this. Or you can politely inform people. Often, many people might apologize and just use the new ones. If someone's consistently and very obviously refusing to accept them, then obviously that's a conversation you might want to have with them. And if they refuse to have that conversation, perhaps it's better for you to decide, actually, maybe they're not a great friend. But I do think that you should, you're allowed to correct people when they do that. But it also does take time to adjust. When you're used to referring to somebody as something for a long time, it can take time to get used to it too. But they should at least try. I came out to my friends thinking I would be more safe than telling my parents. My parents aren't homophobic, but I'm in fear that they will be to me because my mother is political. And it turns out I was wrong. I have been called slurs or been told that gay people is horrible because of one video coming out that gay people were telling this person to leave a street for spreading Christianity, but never talking about how much hate gay people get from Christians and being threatened by them. Right. So Starlight, I would say obviously that it's important that if you know the reasons why that video existed and why that person wasn't necessarily doing something bad, then you can educate your friends. You can explain to them what it was, what it meant, and why they're misunderstanding. If they refuse to acknowledge that and they refuse to allow you to explain, then again, they may not be the best friends for you to have, because they should at least try to accept you, and you shouldn't have to surround yourself with people who don't accept who you are. Oh, wait, I just realized I misread something. Sorry, Felena. I was responding to you, but I said Freya, I think, by accident, because I mixed the names together. What I said to Freya before was for you. You have the same colour name and the beginning letter, so I misread. Freya, I hope you feel better, and thank you for coming. Have a good night. See you soon. I'm not sure how my grandparents will react. They didn't act very nicely to my stepdad who wears dresses. I just don't know what to do. Amelia, it's a very difficult thing because you have to decide if you think you're going to be safe and you know that your parents are accepting, then perhaps you can talk to your parents about what they think you should do. Perhaps they will have some good advice for you because they know your grandparents in a way that I don't. They might have some better advice than what I can give, hopefully. I would maybe consider speaking to them and see what they suggest. Give me 1 second. I came out to my mum once when I was 11 to 12 and she said, no, you're not. And it didn't sink in until I turned about 13, 14. I think sometimes some parents find it really hard. It's not necessarily that some of them are not accepting, but some parents, I think, aren't necessarily unaccepting. It's just they don't know how to deal with the emotions they're feeling and the sudden changes that they're going to have to accept when it comes to their own child. A lot of parents have an idea of how their children are going to grow up and what they're going to be and what they're going to do with their lives. And sometimes they have to adjust that assumption and what they're used to feeling or thinking to something that's new because of who you are now and who they know you are. And so it may well have been an adjustment period. You know your parents better than I do. But I think there's a good chance that, for like my mum, for example, it did take my mum about a year to come to terms with things. And she sort of was a similar sort of thing. She sort of refused to accept it for a good year before it sunk in and she like realised that it's okay and nothing bad's going to happen. If you're comfortable, have you ever experienced hate IRL? It's almost always online. I've only ever experienced something, a negative experience one time, where like a shop employee purposely took me and showed me to the men's section, which was only a few months ago. And I like was wearing my makeup and everything. I had all my like, you know, I was dressed very obviously feminine. So that was kind of rude. And I know they did it on purpose, but like no one's ever actually like attacked me. Also, I definitely think it's complicated as well because I do think that like a lot of parents find it easier to come to terms with people being gay or lesbian than they do with being trans. Because again, like I said, a lot of parents have an idea of what they expect their children to grow up and be like. And often they will imagine who you're going to marry and what your life's going to look like, and that you're going to be a wife or a husband one day or whatever. When it comes to being trans, that's even stronger, because they obviously expect that you're going to grow up to be, say, whatever your birth gender is. They're going to, whatever you were assigned at birth. They're going to assume that that's what you're going to grow up to be. So it's a little bit extra. There's like a few extra steps there of accepting and processing that they've not necessarily lost you, but that they've lost who you were before and have to accept who you are now, if that makes sense, who they know you are now. And it's it's a process, and it does take time. I just hate when people say somebody doesn't have the right to be scared if they don't have a bad history. Everybody has a right to be scared. I think coming out is scary for everyone in different ways and for different reasons, but my parents would never hurt me, and I knew that for a fact, that they would never hurt me and they'd never kick me out or anything like that, but I was still scared. I was still scared to see how they'd react. I was still scared to tell them. I feel guilty for being bisexual, since I'm in a religion that is against being LGBTQ+. I am pretty religious, and I'm trying to be devoted to it as well, but I feel like my God ignores me or doesn't listen to me sometimes because I'm bi, and it's seen as a bad thing. I can't help feeling this, but I still feel like this is a phase I'll grow out of when I get older, and I hate thinking like that. Sonia, this is a really common thing for people who are LGBTQ+ and religious, that they fight with themselves, like an internal battle, I suppose, of trying to figure out who they are, what they believe, and what's acceptable and what they feel isn't acceptable. I think you would benefit massively if you were able to go to like church, or even utilize some online resources from like other religious people in your religion who are LGBTQ+, so that they can share their stories with you. Almost nowhere, and I'm pretty sure whatever your religion is, whether you follow like the Bible, Quran, whatever, pretty certain it does not directly say in any of them that you can't be bisexual or gay or whatever. People like to twist the scriptures and the language to make them sound as if they're saying that, but actually in reality, it's not usually true. The thing is, for example, say the Bible is a collection of passages, testaments, that were written, I don't know what they were actually probably called. What are the passages called? I've got a name. I can't remember. They're a collection of passages that were written by people, right? We don't know if gods are real, but we know they didn't write the book for a fact. People had to write that book. People decided what was written in that book, just like how forever onwards, people decide how to interpret it. Just because a set of people interpreted it a certain way and told you it's not okay to be LGBTQ+, doesn't mean that it's true. Doesn't mean that you have to interpret it that way too. There are plenty of people out there who interpret it in a way that very clearly shows that you should just love everyone regardless, and that there's nothing wrong with who you are. Bye, Sersa. Thanks for coming. I haven't really told anybody that I think I'm bisexual, but I'm afraid if I tell people, they'll accept it on all. But I think I'm just going... But they will think I'm just doing it for the trend, and I know that that isn't a terrible experience, but I'm scared of altering the way people see me. I think that every single LGBTQ+ person is terrified of altering the way that people see them. I don't think that's just you, don't worry. We're all afraid of people seeing us in a different way than the way they've seen us so far, especially if you have a good relationship with them. But if you want them to know so that they can accept you as who you are, it might be worth trying to process in your head that they're not altering their perception of you to something that isn't you. They're altering it so that they can see who you really are. The version of yourself that you know is inside. They're just acknowledging it versus changing the perception of you, if that makes sense. I understand as well, but it's obvious that they refuse to do it, and I've tried as well, but every time I tell them if they don't respect me, I won't be your friend, they make me feel guilty. Well, if they make you feel purposely guilty sleep deprived, maybe it is time to replace your friends with people who are accepting, who are better for you, are people who will love you for who you are and accept you for who you are. Because you deserve that. You all deserve to have friends and family who accept you, who love you, who respect you, and who treat you with dignity. At my first job, I met a girl I worked with. We were talking about our family, and she told me about how she had two mothers, and I was very confused when she explained her story. And that was the day that I realised that women can love women and men can love men. And my first response was, I can't believe there's so many more ways people can show love to each other. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. There are so many ways people can love. And that's the thing, is like, love is so much stronger and so much better and shines so much brighter than hate. So I would always argue that whenever I'm feeling down, I try to just think that all these people who are filled with hate just have so much negativity in their hearts. And that's bad for them, and I feel bad for them for that. But if you choose to live your life with love instead and show love to others and kindness to others, your heart is always going to be filled with so much more joy than theirs. And that's something you should feel proud of. Because it's easy to be mean, it's also easy to be kind. But choosing to be kind instead of mean is something to be proud of. And something we should all do. It does take time to repair your relationship with God, but He's always listening, and in the end, what really matters is your relationship with Him, no matter what other people say. It's hard, but I feel so much better. I think sometimes it's better to just accept that you are who you are and recognize that the one fundamental teaching that literally every religion teaches is that you should love everyone. Regardless of who they are, regardless of their sins, regardless of whatever they do. And I think that fundamental teaching is the one that you should be focusing on. I stopped communicating with them because they were too close-minded. It hurt me too much to continue to speak with them. See, that's the thing as well. If you're in a negative relationship with somebody, friends, family, whatever that might be, it may hurt to leave them behind, but often it will hurt more to keep them in your life, making you miserable. The thing I'm more afraid of on coming out is coming out as if, for example, a lesbian, and then notice that I'm actually pansexual. Well, Cherry, first things first, if you do come out as one thing and realise that, actually, you probably identify better with something else, there's nothing wrong with correcting people and letting them know and sort of re-coming out. But also, there is no pressure to come out at any point. You can question yourself and figure things out and take your time as long as you need to figure out who you are and how you feel. You don't need to push yourself or rush or feel like there's a specific time frame that you need to do this in. It is entirely your life. And you're in control of it. Additionally, I've had a brain fart. That's why a lot of people choose to use, say, for example, they just call themselves LGBTQ+, or a lot of people choose to say queer now, refer to themselves as being queer, because it doesn't necessarily definitively share exactly what it is you're feeling. So sometimes that might be beneficial, because you can say, like, you can refer to yourself as just that for now, and then you can define that more specifically later if you want to, and go into more detail with that later if that's something you want to do. Sorry guys, 1 second, my mom's calling me. One sec, guys, sorry. I was texting my mom to tell her I'm still streaming because she was just trying to call me. Okay. So I know she'll be going to bed soonish because she's back in the UK, so. Let me see. I have basically no social circle and it's made me extremely isolated from the queer community society in general. I just wish I had people who could support me and make me feel valid for who I am and understand and relate to me. I struggled with that so bad, Lunlia, because when I was in the UK still, I lived really rural in the middle of nowhere in a place where there was very, very few LGBTQ plus people. Like, I very rarely saw anybody who was LGBTQ plus. So I totally understand that 100%. I think the best thing that happened for me was that I met people online who I became close with and it made me feel more accepted. And then over time, after joining accepting communities, like I started to visit my friends like I am right now, to be around people who accept who I am and also to be around more LGBTQ plus people. I definitely suggest that you consider joining some communities, maybe Discord servers or something like that. There are tons of spaces available that are filled with LGBTQ plus people that are accepting, where you can make friends and or just chat to people that understand what you're going through. So many opportunities that you can use to bridge that gap, I suppose. It's not a perfect replacement for having people in your real life, I understand, but it does help. My dad is pretty strict, so I know I wouldn't feel safe if I came out to my dad. I've imagined so many scenarios of what will happen if I came out and they were all negative, so I've not come out to anyone IRL. You know, and Sonia, if you think that you would put yourself in danger and you would be unsafe, then the best thing for you to do right now is to do that, is to not share that information just yet. But that doesn't mean it will always be that way. One day you'll be old enough that you'll be living by yourself, you'll move out, you'll do your own thing, and you will have that freedom. My mum was raised very conservative, so her first reaction was, nope, you're too young. But now she and my family are my biggest supporters. It's really nice that they took time to adapt and come around and recognise that there's nothing wrong with who you are. The thing I'm more afraid of on coming out is coming out as example, lesbian, then notice I'm actually pan, and people would use it as a yeah, you're just confused pass. When I was younger, I came out for the first time as asexual and someone literally said, no, you're not, you just didn't find the right person yet. And that unlocks my trauma when it comes to coming out, maybe. That is such a common response and it's so inappropriate and unacceptable for people to say. You know who you are and you know how you feel. And the reality is, Cherry, you can take as much time as you need to figure it out. If you don't want to put a word to it right now and you just want to tell people that you just know you're not straight, there's nothing wrong with that. Take as much time as you need. And eventually, hopefully you'll get to a point where you realise that if people say those things to you, like, you're just confused, it doesn't matter what they think. It only matters what you think and how you feel. Let me see. Yeah, your safety always has to come first. Sonia, I'm really sorry to hear that. More about the character liking sibling. He's female at birth, but asks us to call him him and him pronouns, so we do. Right, okay. He even bought a chest binder a few months ago and wears it with cosplays of his favourite characters. He also freshly turned into an adult a few months back too, so he should understand. I don't know, I just always thought trans people want to be themselves, but just a different gender, but it seems like he's trying to alter his entire self. Perhaps, little llama, perhaps he just enjoys being able to express himself for other people. Some people feel dissatisfied with their own lives or their own experiences of who they are, and they just want to take a break from it. There's lots of people who play characters in so many things. There's people who do it as their job. There's people who do it for so many reasons. A lot of actors often say that the reason why they became actors is because they experience such like negativity, or they feel very depressed, or their mental health is bad, and so they enjoy playing other characters because it gives them a break from who they are. That could just be what your brother's experiencing. He might just or something similar. He might just enjoy the freedom that he feels from getting to be someone else for a little while. That used to be something I enjoyed in a way. I enjoyed getting to come online when my real life was difficult and get to be like B-players, you know, instead of the person I am in real life, and get to escape. Funnily enough, as I've grown and become successful in my job, it's actually flipped, because as you become more successful online, obviously there's more hate that you get. And as the hate increased online that I started to receive, I started to find that and I started to realize that actually my real life person is my escape now. Because my job, being online, can be really intense, because I find it really difficult to deal with like hate or people not liking you online. Not necessarily just hate. If people don't like me for any reason, I find it really hard to cope with. I think it's like an internalized like childhood thing of just really struggling with people not liking me. And it's complicated. It's something I need to talk to my therapist about. And I do. And I think now my real life is my escape from my job, I guess. Because who I am online, like being B-players, for me in my head, I feel like I separated them as the person I am online when I do my job and the person I am in real life when I'm with my family and friends are not the same people, you know? While most of my personality comes through online and I'm very similar in person, I think I had to separate them in my head, because otherwise I think I would have allowed people's comments online to convince me that I'm a bad person, even if I'm not. And so I had to sort of separate who I was between B-Players, the content creator, and Beatrice, the actual person. Do you know what I mean? Now I don't have social media or anything on my phone and stuff like that, and I don't have most social medias anymore on purpose, so that when I turn my computer off and I'm finished working, I'm done. And I can go live my normal, actual life. And I think that it could be a similar sort of thing. Perhaps he just wants to find a way to escape for a while. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking about this too much and maybe it isn't as complicated as I see it. It might well be that, yes. It might be that you're just maybe overthinking it. But also, if you're comfortable with doing so, you said he's an adult, perhaps ask him. Because, like Defalesi said, he might just be exploring his identity too, and using it as a way to figure out who he is and how he feels. A lot of people choose their name from characters they like. It could just be that he's trying to find a name that he feels comfortable with and may take a while. Try to support him as best you can while he's figuring it out. Yeah, exactly. He could also just be, it could, you know, it could just be that he's trying to figure out what he wants to be. I went through different names when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be called for the rest of my life. But my mum ended up choosing my name. My mum's friend is a part of a church who supports LGBTQ+ people, and it's great that there are religious community out there that are representative and accepting. There are tons, way more than you probably realise. Even if you aren't religious, the internal struggle from societal pressure is just as jarring. Yeah, it's true. Like, for like Sonia, when you were saying about like the like internal fighting with yourself about your religion, a lot of us do that anyway, about the way society treats us in general. A lot of us worry about how society feels we should be in, and what society thinks we need to be. There's a lot of internal struggle for lots of reasons. So you're not alone. You're not the only person feeling this, I promise. And religious people feel this a lot. But then the societal pressure as well is always there too. The world still has a big way to go. I swear homophobic people only talk online because they know that nobody could find them unless they dox them. I find it so stupid when someone says the reason why the person was racist or homophobic, etc. is because they're struggling. I know mental health matters, but it's no excuse to also bring other people's self-esteem down because you're hurt. Unfortunately, some people use it as a coping mechanism to be mean to other people in exchange for the fact that they're struggling themselves, and it is a shame. Let me see. Let me see. Okay. I formerly had a friend that just didn't know what trans was, so they would continue to mess up my pronouns. When I explained it to them, it's like the worst time because they were like, oh, it's like a insert not nice word for liking something in a certain way. That's just weird, just illegal to me, and they are no longer my friend. It's a shame that you had to go through that in general, but I'm glad that you took the steps to safeguard your mental health and remove people like that from your life. It's hard to do it, but I'm proud of you for doing it. My mom sees people in my school who are trans, for example, a person who went by their dead name for a long time, and we hung out when they did, but when they started going by their, them, and their new name, and sometime in 6th or 7th grade, and I got used to it, while my mom, on the other hand, believes it's impossible for someone to believe at such an young age that someone can think or believe such a thing about themselves. But we're in 10th grade now, 2nd year of high school, and it's been 3 to 4 years, and my mom can't accept that. I always find it so weird when people say that, when people are like, you're too young to know who you are. Like, I'm sure your mom knows that she's a woman. Probably did when she was a child too, know that she was a girl. So why can't other people know if they're not? It can take any amount of time to realise you're trans, so don't push it and don't believe anyone can say otherwise. Exactly. Take your time. Allow yourself that time. Medical question. How do you let your physician know that you are trans, and how do you get your HRT? My healthcare is close to my parents. I'm afraid if either the doctors know, they'll tell my parents about it. Depending on where you're from, that could be illegal. And depending on your age, because in some places you're not allowed to tell people like confidential information like that. I was over 16, so it was illegal in my country for them to tell my parents. But also, I actually went with my mom anyway. So, in the I don't know how it works in the US, but in the UK, I went to my doctor and just told them what I was experiencing, and then they immediately referred me to a gender identity clinic, and you get put on a waiting list, and that's how that works, basically. Then you go to a gender identity clinic, and they handle the rest, basically. So for me in the UK, it was just a matter of going to see my GP and just telling them how I felt. I was lucky because my GP was very accepting. Thank you for advice. I'll try to join some LGBTQ Discord servers. You might find that it really helps you to be in communities that are more accepting and can share their experiences and things like that. Just be careful, obviously. There is always bad people out there too, so just be careful when you're going into, you know, public spaces and stuff. Yeah, you should absolutely check, Benji. Check your country's confidentiality laws. Aspen, that's really nice. I'm glad that you had a good experience. That's another thing to bear in mind as well, Benji. If you are going to take medication, this all depends on your age. Like I said, depending on your age, your parents will either figure it out if you live with them, or they'll need to know to sign off on it if you're a certain age. So do bear that in mind as well. If you're British, I don't know if you are, but if you're British, you won't be allowed HRT until you're at least 16, I think, anyway. I think you can have blockers before then, but not HRT. Honestly, when it comes to having friends for a long time, I know it's scary to tell them, but you'd hope that your friend who's been your best friend for 6 years would know and care about you enough to accept you. And if they don't, then as hard as it is, they might not be the best friend to have. You need friends that accept who you are and support you and are there for you, not ones that make you feel bad about who you are. Yay, magic flower, that's awesome. My mum said it made no sense that I was trans because I always liked dresses and makeup when I was younger. Dresses and makeup have nothing to do with your gender identity. Everybody's personality is completely different and everybody likes and enjoys different things. You can be a male who enjoys dresses and things like that. You can be trans and still enjoy wearing dresses if you want to. It has absolutely nothing to do with each other. Men can like dolls and wear dresses and wear skirts, and women can like stereotypically masculine things. There's a different parts of your personality. Your hobbies and the things you enjoy and the expression and the way that you express yourself is not the same as how you feel about yourself and who you are. It's a very old and uneducated viewpoint. Hi, Electrocity, how are you? I want to tell my friend, but we spend loads of time together and basically hang out, just the two of us, and I wouldn't want to destroy it or make it awkward. I think everybody has that fear, but if you've spent that much time with your friend and you know them very well, so much so that you're comfortable to be around them all the time like that, I'd like to think that they're a good, kind person and that they would understand and accept you. Obviously, you should only talk about it if you feel safe and comfortable to do so and you really want to tell them. But based on what you said, I'm assuming you do. That she definitely would accept, but it's still scary because I don't want to make her uncomfortable. We all feel that way when we come out. So even if we know that somebody will be okay with it, we're still scared and we still worry about it. I know it's easier said than done, but the best thing you can do is if you truly are ready and you really know for sure that you want to do it, it's kind of one of those like rip the band-aid off kind of situations. Okay, thank you. I'm over 18 in the US. I know clinics here are US. Oh, I know there are clinics here in the US like Planned Parenthood that provide HRT. I believe I'll have to research it. Yeah. Do some research. I'm not American. I'm just here at the moment, but I'm not American. So I don't really know how it works here. Definitely do your research and find out though. I'm not transitioning from male to female, but my best friend is, and her parents aren't supportive, so I occasionally get her feminine items and things that she asks for. It's very kind of you to support your friend, Diamond's name. I think that will hopefully make your friend feel really happy to have you. I feel like a safe space for her, and I think it makes me happy. Do you know what? I'm so happy to hear that being kind makes you feel happy, because that's what we should all be like. We should all do kind things, because we would be filled with so much more positivity and joy in our lives if we did. It's very kind of you to help your friend, and I'm sure it means a lot to her. Hi, Sorball, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Welcome back. Yeah, there are lots of organisations. Definitely do some research to find the best and safest place for you to go to. Guys, I'm so sorry, because I know you're probably going to go crazy because of my stream before the It Gets Better stream where I had to do this a lot too, but I have to go use the bathroom again. The social construct of how dresses are for women are only social standards and not biological. A man enjoying wearing dresses is just as normal as a woman enjoying wearing one. Society has built a way of thought that has made it into something unnormal, which it isn't. Who you are shouldn't limit what you can enjoy. My first language isn't English. I'm sorry if I formulated anything wrong. No, that's a perfect response, Miniluni. That is exactly what I would want to say if I was in your position. That is exactly right. That's wonderful. Okay, I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, just give me 2 seconds to just quickly. I say 1 second. That's an over exaggeration. I'll be back in a minute. I'm just gonna go pee. I'll be really quick. 1 second. I got this hand cream for in the bathroom. Oops. That it's got the exact same scent that my great grandma used to buy, honey and milk. It smells amazing. I love it. So nice. Okay, I'm back. Just bear with me just a second. Okay. I know this has nothing to do with LGBTQ+, but I bought my first wig after losing all my hair and it's purple. I'm really happy for you, Ozzy. I hope you love it. I'm really, really happy for you. Let me see. I really hoped that the emote would go away. What emote? Am I so confused? What am when you tried to send a face, I'm sorry. Okay, let me see if there's any messages I missed. Okay. It's weird though, because my mum is super supportive of my trans cousin. Yeah, she isn't of me, and she says things like that to me. I'm pretty sure she thinks I'm too young to know. So this is interesting because my parents were very similar. They were always very supportive of other LGBTQ plus people, but then strangely unsupportive or nervous towards me, I guess. And it was really, really weird to me. I always found it really mind-blowing. But over time, I think I realized it was because my parents were worried about me in a way they wouldn't worry about people they don't know. They're going to care a lot more about what you're experiencing because you're their child. Does that make sense? And they have an idea of who you're going to grow up to be, even if it's an inaccurate idea. Every parent has that sort of thought process or idea of what their child is going to grow up to be like, if that makes sense. I think that sometimes it's hard for them to accept it with their own family because they care about you and they want you to be okay, and their own family is important to them. It's something that they feel a connection to, whereas someone else who's not in their family directly, like their child or whatever, they're not going to worry about as much because it's not their responsibility to worry about them. Does that make sense? Like, your cousins are not your parents' responsibility, but you are. So sometimes they struggle more with it because of that fact, if that makes sense. I also lost a lot of hair due to health issues. I was thinking of buying a wig, but I have no clue what kind yet. I think that's awesome. And good luck to you. I wear wigs sometimes. In my thumbnail pictures on my YouTube, sometimes I'm wearing wigs. Like the blonde one, it's not my real hair. Thank you so much, Akatre. Is that how you say it? See you later. So guys, one thing I will say is, when I was worried about not fitting into the specific boxes that I need to fit into, I actually asked my gender nurse at the time at the gender identity clinic about it, because one of my fears was, people said that at the time, that if I didn't want to have surgery or didn't feel like I needed surgery, was I not trans enough, right? Which is kind of what made me feel like talking about this is important, because she actually said to me at the time that only like 40% of the people that she works with, the trans people she works with in the clinic, actually choose to have surgery, which I think opened my eyes a little bit, because I realized that for a lot of trans people, having surgery, you know, it isn't what's causing them their biggest problems. I think for me as a person, it's always been the things people can see and hear directly about me. Now that I transitioned a while ago, so like for the most part, things don't necessarily bother me as much anymore. Like, for example, I'm sat here without any makeup on. A year or 2 years ago, I would never have done this. There is no way I would have sat on stream without makeup on. I've actually been feeling kind of sad recently, because I've been looking back at some of my old makeup looks and missing them, because I've been having some skin allergies, so I've been struggling with wearing makeup lately, which is kind of making me a bit sad. Over time, hopefully we'll get those under control. But one thing I will say, and also the biggest reason I'm not wearing makeup at the moment is because I hate taking it off. Taking off your makeup is such a pain in the backside, guys. Anyways, I think the only things that bother me still about me now, about my identity, are my voice. I hate my voice. I always have. People always comment about my voice, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable and nervous. So that's something that will always bother me, I think. And I still need to finish my electrolysis, like hair removal, but we're getting pretty good with that. We've got kind of far with it, so finishing that up, but I think my voice is something that's just always going to bother me. Something that bothers me as well is the lump in my neck. People always insist that they can't see it, but I can't help but think about it all the time, and it bothers me so much. Makeup takes so long to take off. It really does. It really does. Why does it? You know, why can't they make an easy way? You know why it takes so long for me though? I have to use certain products so that I don't hurt myself, because my face is so sensitive and my skin is so sensitive that I have to be really careful. I think you have a wonderful voice. I appreciate that. I think the reason why it makes me sad is because I don't have a feminine sounding voice. I think I sound like very masculine, and people point out a lot, and it makes me really sad. So that's something that I think I'm always going to struggle with. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I know, there's so many things that are like, I can't even see that, so why are you worried about it? But like, I can see it exactly. Definitely say that's exactly how I feel, because like people say they can't notice the lump in my neck, for example. But I know it's there and I can feel it, and so it makes me sad. Do you know what I mean? I think one of the best things I ever did there was I had top surgery, obviously. I had breast augmentation in June this year. It was one of the best things I ever did. I'll share this story with you guys. Unfortunately, I was unlucky. My family, not just me, suffer really badly with... I suffer really badly with stretch marks and stuff. My skin's not very elasticy, so I have stretch marks like everywhere. My arms, my back, my thighs, tummy, everywhere. And when I had breast augmentation, unfortunately, obviously, it caused me to get stretch marks. Now, most people do get stretch marks from it, but mine are really bad, like in a way that you don't normally get them. Kind of like all over my breasts is just stretch marks now, which I know will fade, but it made me really sad. Oops, I clicked on something. But it made me really sad because I was like, I feel like I just can't do anything right. Like I do something to make myself feel better and it ends up making me feel worse. So I was just like, for goodness sake, can I just catch a break? Do you know what I mean? But I think about it sometimes and I'm like, would I go back in time and not have this surgery if I knew this was going to happen? And no, I still would have had it. I still would have done it. So it is what it is, you know? I think I'm trying to, like, as a person, come to terms with the fact that we have to be grateful for small mercies. Because, you know, some things, there's always going to be negative things that happen in your life. There's steps you can take to improve them, but there will always be parts that just suck. And I think I'm trying to learn to be upset about things that really deserve being upset about, and get over the things that don't necessarily, you know what I mean? But it does suck when you feel that way. Also, when I went for my checkup, my surgeon said to me, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen stretch marks that bad before." And I was like, great. He's been a surgeon who specializes in breast augmentation for like probably like 20 years. I feel really good about myself now. I don't know why you would say that to somebody, because that made me feel really bad about myself. It's something that I'm just gonna have to come to terms with. But like, why would a surgeon say that to you? About their work as well, that I've paid for. But you know, it is what it is. I understand, Diamond Snow. I understand. I think that's one of the only things that's good about the fact that I know I need to lose weight because I feel uncomfortable in my current weight. But the one benefit is it does hide my neck a lot. That's okay, Flora. I would never be bothered by anybody else's stretch marks. I think we just like many other things on other people, we just end up being bothered about them about ourselves, but we don't actually care about other people's, you know? But yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there are worse things that can happen, so I try to stay positive. Since having top surgery and having breast augmentation, I feel so much better in myself. There are lots of positive benefits to it, so while obviously I didn't love that, there are lots of things that have improved in my life since that I feel really good about, so... You know... Sometimes, like I said, it is what it is. You accept it, you move on. And that's sort of just what I'm doing, I guess. I'm just accepting it and moving on. I was supposed to get top surgery in June, but it was through a Catholic church and the local bishop said to cancel all surgeries as they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Then I was supposed to get it on November... Wait, you can get surgery through a Catholic church? Then I was supposed to get it on November 7th, but before that, in October, I was hospitalised for 2 weeks and my pulmonologist said it was actually maybe good that my surgery in June was cancelled because I might not have survived the anaesthesia. So we had to push it back again, so I'm scheduled for December 12th, so hopefully I can clear out my lungs before then. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I really hope you get it figured out. Oh, like a Catholic hospital? Oh. It's really weird to me that they can cancel people's surgeries for religious reasons at a hospital. Like, if you're paying for care, I don't think they should be allowed to stop you from having it for religious reasons. But I'm glad that you're safe as a result of that. Stretch marks are pretty. I never thought twice about my stretch marks before I knew what they were. So funny how society can make us insecure about such normal things. It's weird, isn't it, Audially? Because that's exactly what society does. Makes us feel insecure about things that pretty much everybody has. Like women with leg hair, for example. It's strange because they sort of just... I think society just enjoys demonizing people, making people feel bad about themselves in any way they possibly can, you know? But yeah, I think having top surgery was definitely a really positive thing for me. I'm really glad I did. Recovery wasn't the most fun, but it was worth it. So out of curiosity, do any of you guys have any other questions or experiences you'd like to share? Because I do love getting to chat to you guys. I think it's nice to have a nice open space where everybody feels comfortable to talk about how they're feeling or what they're going through, things like that. I've been told that my Adam's apple works out too much and that it looks bad, but before then I didn't think of it too much until it got pointed out. A lot of people can change everything in every way and it hurts. So it's funny you should mention that, because I can tell you exactly, I know exactly how you feel. Somebody once pointed out to me that my eyebrow, the ridge around my eyebrows sticks out too much here. That like I have a bump here on my eyebrows. And they said that it's a masculine thing that men have, to have like the eyebrows bumping out. Ever since then, I'm so insecure about it and I got bangs to hide it. I didn't have bangs before, you may remember. I decided to get bangs to hide it because it makes me really insecure. I'm sorry, Amelia, but you know who you are and you know what you feel. And that's what's most important. Not what anybody else tries to make up about you. My cousin, was biological female, like a assigned female at birth, she has the same thing. It's not a mask feature, it's just a face structure. Yeah, I think just because somebody pointed it out there, it made me nervous, and so now I just feel insecure about it. It's like funny how people can say things like that and make us feel really insecure about stuff, isn't it? It's unfortunate because it happens a lot. People can make us feel really insecure. Um, People can make us feel really insecure about things about ourselves that, you know, are very normal and people experience all the time, and there's nothing wrong with them or weird about them. But it just makes us feel insecure because people bring it up, I think. And it really is awful and unfair. But unfortunately, there's not a whole lot we can do about it sometimes. It just sucks that we get put into those boxes, I think, and those expectations are made of us and make us feel like we have to meet them, I guess. I was never too concerned about my chest, but after I got evaluated for chop surgery, my dad said something about my chest being big, jokingly, but yeah. Yeah, people make jokes about these types of things and, oops, sorry, doggy, and don't realize how they can impact you. Like, saying something in a joking manner towards somebody at their expense very rarely is going to end well. It very often results in them feeling worse, you know? I don't know why people do it sometimes. I think it's just a surefire way to make somebody just feel really bad about themselves. And it is a shame. I wish society was more accepting of people's gender identity, sexuality, and bodies, and not put so much pressure on everyone to change themselves to who they are and how they look. I do too. I wish we just accepted that but people look different, you know? We are all different. We are all individual. Why is there this, like, push all the time that we have to fit and look the same and fit into these specific boxes? People are always trying to, like, justify and quantify what beauty is and what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable, instead of just recognizing that everybody should just be who they are. There's no right way to look or to feel or be. Otherwise, we would all be born looking exactly the same. And life would be really boring if everybody was the same. I don't understand why people get hurt about somebody else being gay, trans, etc. Like, how does it hurt you? Why do you have to make someone else feel hurt when it doesn't affect you? This is something that really bothers me as well, sleep deprived. I think about this a lot. I'm always thinking about the fact that people get so mad over people being gay or trans or whatever for no reason. Because it literally does not affect their life. So why do they care? Like, why do people care about things that do not affect them in any way, shape, or form? It's never made sense to me. I've never understood it. I'm always just like, this does not affect your life, so why are you bothered? One comment can lead to a literal lifetime of insecurity. I wish people just took more time to think about what they say, how what they say affects people. Words have so much power. They can be used for good or bad, and they hold so much weight. I do wish more people would accept that. I talked to him about it though and let him know it affected me, and he was very sorry. It's nice when you can talk to somebody about how something affects or upsets you and they recognize that they've done that and apologize for it. There's too many people who just get really, like, I guess, offended when they've hurt you and get annoyed about it rather than just apologizing. I remember, oh sorry, especially when people have like autism, ADHD, anxiety, etc. as well, not only gay people. I remember I was diagnosed with autism and my stepmom treated me so different, like nothing changed but medical records. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, how like you can be the exact same person, but as soon as it's a word to actually describe what you're going through, people seem to be bothered by it. Why is my camera freaking out so much? Like, why is it somebody's business how someone else lives their life? They're not doing anything dangerous. Why does it matter? I agree with you, Starlight. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. I think people are just afraid of anything / anyone different than what they're used to. It's so strange. Yeah, I totally understand, and I agree with you. Sorry, my spelling is bad. I'm dyslexic. No, don't worry about it. It's completely fine. I understand you just fine. People just want to get attention from me. My mum said if a person doesn't have a life, they'll get into yours, and now that's just stuck with me. It's a good point. It was actually my granddad when I was growing up used to always say to me that if everybody was the same, like the world would be boring and life would be boring. And he used to say it to me all the time, and it really stuck with me growing up because it helped me to recognize, I think, that people are different. Because if we were all the same, life really would be really boring. What would be the point? You know? What would be the point in us all being exactly the same? It's weird how people find so much fear in the differences we have, when it's one of the main reasons that makes us so amazing as humans. We're able to differ from each other and change. Like, why is it so bothersome to others that one expresses their true selves? Again, English is my first language, so if any possible wrongly formulated statements. Mini Looney, your English is very good, so don't worry. Everything you say is very good. I think it's true, like, why do people want people to be pushed into, like, this, I guess, these expectations? It is, like, really strange that we have these ideas of how people should be and expect people to be just like us. Like, there's lots of people in the world who feel like everybody should be the same. And I just think that it's so strange because surely, like you said, the differences that we have are what make us special. They're what make us unique and what make us exciting. You know? It's so much more important to me as a person to recognize that everybody is different for a reason. It's what makes us special. I know I'm late, but I do think that words have such an impact on people. They really do. They do. And people make mistakes. Sometimes you might say something that hurts somebody else and it's a mistake. And that's okay. You can make mistakes. As long as you're willing to apologize and recognize that you've made that mistake. My whole life I've tried to be perfect in everyone's eyes and mold myself into whatever others wanted me to be, because I thought that would make the others happiest and my life the easiest, but it just left me extremely insecure, in pain, and with no clue of what my identity is. It's caused me so many mental and physical health issues that I just don't know what to do anymore. You can't force yourself to be somebody else. It's absolutely true. You know, there are so many things that make you guys beautiful and special and amazing. And I think that recognizing that your differences are what make you unique is more important than recognizing it's what make you different. It's not that you're different, it's that you're special, you're unique. You're your own person. Words have so much value, and it's important to use them to do good. Someone's once said something to me. I stayed in a room for a week, didn't talk to almost anyone for a month, and took, what was that? Sorry. Took a long time to get over it. There's been plenty of times people have said stuff to me that's like knocked my confidence for a long time. I definitely understand, and I'm sorry you experienced that too. People want people to be normal, but no one is and no one ever will be. Yeah, because there isn't such thing as normal and normality when it comes to humans. How can anything be normal if we're all born different? It's normal to be different and unique and special. My dad was complaining about a trans woman winning a swimming tournament, saying the only reason she won was because she had testosterone in her. Whether or not she had that skill and strength is still important. Another woman would have beat her if she had more skill than her. It's that simple. Testosterone doesn't give you a reason to be salty. In volleyball tournaments where I live, we can have both boys and girls on the team, so why would the trans girl winning be any different? Simply doesn't matter if she's trans, she won because she was better at it than others. If they were better at it, then they would have won. It's a very complicated argument that people bring up a lot, but women have testosterone too, and some women naturally have higher testosterone than other women, and that's kind of just the way it is. The reality is there is no solid actual evidence that any trans people are unfairly winning things, really. Like, but there's always the arguments about like muscle mass and things like that and blah blah blah, but it's been proven by so many people that when you no longer have the testosterone being your dominant hormone, and you take like hormones and stuff and have hormone blockers, there's plenty of proof out there that it does reduce said muscle mass and reduces things. It's very complicated and medical, and I'm not an expert on these things, but what I can tell you for a fact is that a lot of people just use it as a method to be mean. They just want to use it to push forward their argument, if that makes sense. They just want to make people feel bad. That's just all it is. All they want is to make people feel bad, and they do so by just using whatever statistics and random crap they can think of to push people out to get their own way. That's just the way it is. That's what they always do. Oh god, what have I done? I opened something, hold on. Bear with me a sec, guys, sorry. Okay. I clicked on something weird and it made all my things go weird. I'm sorry, 1 second. I'm so confused. Okay. I think I fixed it. I don't know what I did. Okay. Let me see. Dad says stuff like this all the time, but once a trans man wins something, suddenly it doesn't matter. It's very hypocritical and misogynistic. There's no hatred towards trans women. It's tiring. So much hatred. Yeah, it always seems to be this, like, especially the sports argument, always seems to be focused on like trans women. I just want to bring people down. That's why. Like, people just enjoy dragging each other down. It's just the way it is. Stephanie, if you're listening, by the way, when you do the clips, can you share the level? Like, share the character in the original OC, share the level at the side, then share, and then do the outfits just on screen as you do it. Because I'm going to start putting the level there so people can't be like, you're not that level, so they recognize it's a different account, if you know what I mean. You'll know what I'm talking about if you can hear me. So that people aren't like, you're not even that level. I'll share your level on mine and on yours and my level on mine. Does that make sense? As well as putting the tag names in the title. Trans women people anyway don't care about women when they try to make the argument that trans women shouldn't compete in women's sports. They should be allowed to compete in women's sports. Yeah, exactly. They're not. The argument isn't, but they don't say these things because they want to support women. They're saying it because they specifically want to negatively impact trans women because they just don't like trans people. That's all it is. It's funny how society has chosen what is to be normal when absolutely everybody is different from each other. It's simply impossible to be completely similar to each other. And it's so weird seeing people choose what differences they accept and whatnot. People are so selective. They choose to frame so many beautiful things as something disgraceful. I just don't get it. Like, for example, why is love for another person looked at as something so bad? Just because they've decided. Because they've decided it is. And this is, you're right, it happens all the time. People just decide what is normal and not normal because they think that they have the right to do that. What's wrong with my message? Why did the mod not let it be sent? What's bad about it? You might have used a banned word and so it automatically removed it. I don't think any mods did it. It's probably automatically declined because you put a bad word in it. So maybe check over it and check what word you might have included that maybe was not acceptable. Thanks, Local. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, definitely, you are correct. Yes, look over the duck. Did I just say you're correct? Yeah. No, I said definitely is. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ultimately, guys, in summary of what this stream was intended to be, it was kind of supposed to be just a reminder that you don't have to fit into specific boxes. It says it's being checked by mods. Oh, the mods might be able to approve it then, maybe? Mods, can you double check and see if you have an auto mod request from Atlas? The ultimate reason I wanted to have this stream was mainly to remind people that you don't have to be a specific type of person. You don't have to be a specific set of rules in order to be who you are. Because who you are is what you know you are, right? You know who you are supposed to be. And don't let other people tell you otherwise. You're all wonderful and beautiful and amazing. And the most important thing is that you love yourself. It doesn't matter what other people think. And no one ever believes me when I say I'm trans because I'm autistic too. It's hard to get people to understand when they always think you don't know anything about another issue because you have. They always say you're autistic so you don't know you're trans. But I do know that I'm trans because I know who I am. I've heard this many times. There are lots of people who I know who are autistic, whose family or friends tell them that they can't possibly know who they are because they're autistic. Completely untrue. And it's also so many different types of autism as well. So making assumptions about people like this, it's so weird to me and strange. Nobody knows you, like what's in your head. Because what's in your head is, you know it, but they don't. I do find it really weird. I think people, I think in many cases, guys, people just need to mind their own business. To be totally honest with you. It's in. You're welcome. I think the mods saw it. Don't worry. They found it. Alright, we're coming up on the last 5 minutes of the stream, you guys. So is there anything you wanted to share or ask before we finish off today? When it comes to trans women in like fighting sports, it should be like a rule for how long you've been transitioned. Todd Clown, this is something that the right-wing people tell you is true and is not true on purpose to fearmonger. Saying that men want to participate in women's sports by calling themselves trans is completely untrue. There is no evidence that anybody has ever done that. It's the same thing that people say all the time, that trans women shouldn't be allowed inside of women's bathrooms because they might sexually attack or abuse women. There might be men who pretend to be trans to sexually abuse women. Newsflash, men who are sick enough to do something like that are not going to dress in women's clothes and call themselves trans just to gain access to a place to do it. They will just do it because they're horrible people already. People are not just claiming to be trans to win a women's sport. That would be ridiculous. Because then they're not winning in the correct categories, for a start. People, yeah, exactly what Audielli just said. People make up scenarios to fit their narrative, which I'm assuming are some of those things you've read. There is literally no categorical proof or any evidence to support that there's men pretending to be women, calling themselves trans, just to access women's sports. That is what people who are against trans people say in order to convince people that letting trans women compete in sports is a bad idea. Todd Clown, she probably lost because the other person was just better than her at sport or was just better prepared in that moment. And you said in the bracket, in the parentheses there, that she herself wasn't told that she was fighting against a trans woman. Why should she be? If I wanted to compete in a swimming competition, do you feel that the other people, the other women in a women's competition, need to be told that I'm trans? I don't see why it's relevant. This is just stuff that people like to make up to make it so that they can fit their narrative against trans people. They just want to convince you that allowing trans people to compete in sports is a bad idea. And it's almost never true. If ever, I've never seen a situation where it actually is. I saw an article literally yesterday about a woman in a snooker tournament, you know, like pool, like snooker pool, whatever, refusing to play the final because she was playing against a trans woman, and she said that if she has better upper body strength, she would be able to break better, which is where you hit the first ball and they all separate out. What kind of argument is that? That is just ridiculous. That is the most over-the-top mental gymnastics I have ever heard. Just say you hate trans people, because that's literally what she's saying. She just doesn't want to compete against a trans woman because she hates trans people. That's all she is saying there. That is the most mental gymnastics madness I have ever heard in my life. I'm not competing against a trans woman because she'll be able to break the balls harder than me. That's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, I said I was going to do one inside of Discord, yeah, but I don't know if any of the mods ever made it. And I don't remember if I asked, but we'll do one on Discord, yes. I'll open it in Discord if it's not already. I mean, when it comes to fighting, the reality is, Todd Clown, no trans woman is going to go to a fighting or any kind of sport the day after she comes out. It takes a long time to be able to get into things like that, into on waiting lists and things like that before you even get drafted into sports. You've got to then join teams, you've got to work your way up to the top, you've got to compete like crazy. And by the way, just to be clear, for most sports, they actually do test people's hormone levels. For example, in men, in certain football matches or certain sports they test their testosterone to make sure they don't have too high testosterone. They actually do that with women too. They check to see how high their testosterone is and stuff like that. We're talking women who are assigned female at birth, just to be clear. They do test their testosterone levels and stuff like that, and some women do take suppressants who have too high testosterone because it's considered unfair for them to fight with other women if their testosterone's too high. So if they're doing that with women anyway, then that means there are cis women who fail those tests and are forced to take suppressants to lower their testosterone if they want to compete inside of certain sports, because it would be considered an unfair advantage. So if they're testing cis women like that, they're also testing trans women. So there is no way a trans woman who doesn't meet the exact hormone requirements, just like every other cis woman, is competing against cis women in sports. If I wanted to compete against Stephanie in a sport, they would test Stephanie to make sure that she has the right level of hormones. They would test me as well, and I would have to have the exact same hormone level as her. The argument most people make is that my upper body strength would be stronger than Stephanie's because my muscles grew in a masculine way through puberty before I started transitioning. which is just ridiculous because it's been proven in so many biological studies that your muscle mass reduces and things like that when you take certain hormones. They just want to make arguments in order to make it sound like you are allowing women to basically just be beaten all the time by taking away their rights. It's just like Audiali said earlier, they make up stories to fit their narrative. The trans woman who was in that, like, I'm assuming it was like boxing or something, because she said they were fighting or wrestling or something, she will have had to have extensive testing just like cis women. Some cis women that are in like wrestling and boxing have so much upper body strength. You can see the muscle and strength above them. They probably have the exact same strength as the trans woman that competed, but they just do whatever they can to change the narrative. If that makes sense. They want to make you believe that we're causing a problem so that they can remove us. Does that make sense? I know you didn't mean to be rude, by the way, just to be clear. I know you weren't intending to sound like you were taking their sides, but often they just want to twist the narrative to make it sound bad. That's why, for example, they keep saying they should ban us from being able to use bathrooms in public. A lot of places, a lot of areas around the world, and like in Florida, for example, is one of them, keep saying that I shouldn't be allowed to use a women's restroom because it will encourage us to attack or abuse women in the bathrooms. Just want to pee like everyone else. No man who wants to attack a woman is going to go through the pain, suffering, the years of waiting lists, the psychological evaluations, and the medical difficulties, and the cost of transitioning to a woman just to attack a woman. If they're psycho enough to attack someone, they'll just do it. If they're nasty enough and evil enough to do something like that, they will find a way. Because evil people always find a way. They don't have to do things like that to do it. People just want to twist the narrative to make you seem bad. That's just what they all do. They just twist the narrative to make it fit. They twist the stories up to make it fit their narrative, to convince people that these people are bad people. It's the same thing they did 50 years ago against gay people, but now they're doing it against trans people. Just like back then they said that gay people were gross or like perverted or like lots of inappropriate, unbelievably inappropriate, nasty, unrealistic and unkind things that they said to try to convince the public that gay people were bad. It's the exact same thing that they do to trans people. They just want to convince you that we're bad because they don't like us. And 9 times out of 10, if not always, it's untrue stuff that they claim just to fit their narrative. It's kind of off topic, but I love hearing B talk. She changed my views about a lot of stuff, including myself, and I'm thankful. A lot to have found her randomly and decided to stay in her community. Thank you, Cherry. I appreciate that. I'm glad for my school sometimes because they changed the women's and men's bathrooms as gender-neutral bathrooms. You know, I went to my sister's university recently, and in her university they just have individual doors that you open, and each one has a sink and a toilet inside, and you can close the door. They're gender neutral because each one just has its own sink and its own toilet inside the door. Why aren't all bathrooms like this? No one's sharing anything then, because some people say that you can't have all gender neutral bathrooms because that means everyone's sharing, but that's not the case. If you just have lots of individual doors that have their own sink and toilet, they're all neutral, no one's sharing. Why can't they all just be like that? Anyways, my time's up, guys. But I've really enjoyed the conversation today. Sorry I got a little bit, towards the end, I got a little bit like, I was like going for it because something I feel really strongly about, because it is a common thing where people say something like that. When they say like, you know, oh, men are going to come into women's sports and beat women up and beat them all the time. And it's just something they say to try and flip things to fit their narrative, and it's really annoying. It makes me mad. Sometimes I think people misunderstand things so much they twist it to make it their way and don't like anything they always want it to be their way. There's tons of people that do that too, yeah. Thank you for today and for a wonderful stream. You're wonderful, strong, beautiful, worthy, loved, and important. So are all of you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, night, and stay safe. You too. Those laws are just going to get cis women who are too masculine and cis men who are feminine to be stopped. It's true, by the way. I have a cousin who is quite masculine looking, and she talks about this a lot because she writes news articles for a newspaper, and she has been misgendered and told to get out of the bathrooms multiple times because she looks too masculine, because people think she's trans. She's not. She's cisgender. It's just causing things like that to happen. All right. I love you guys lots. It was lovely to chat to you all and listen to your stories and answer your questions. Thank you so much for coming. I am going to stream tomorrow, yes, Cherry. So I'm streaming tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 8 p.m. UK time, the usual time that I normally stream. We're going to vibe a little bit up until 6 p.m. Eastern, so about 3 hours stream, because then I'm going to be going over to do, well, it'll be just before then. I'm going to end just before then, about like 5:30, I think, because I'm doing a podcast here on the It Gets Better channel. I'm joining in as a guest tomorrow night, so I will see you all there if you come by. Make sure you turn on notifications. I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you all soon, and thank you so much for chilling with me today, okay? Thank you, Lenny Poo, I appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye. See you all soon. You too, Connor, thank you. See you tomorrow, guys. I love you. Bye, everyone. Bye.